show. So, hello everybody. I'm your host, Legendary Neurotoxin. With me here is DamainKnight. This is H1Z1 Dead feature rant. This is the second episode here. We're going to be talking about the role of terrain, structures, settlements, and vehicles in the game.
Yes.
Oh, great bearded one. I would love to have that as a feature. We don't really have the ability to salvage these old dead-ass rusty cars yet. I don't know if that'll be a feature in the future, or if all of these cars have been sitting here for 15 years, and the idea is that the elements have weathered them to the point that they're just like, rusty stuff that it'll just turn to powder if you try to hit it with anything. So,
Actually, I saw something on that recently.
really.
I was watching a discussion there with the developers. They had said that the vehicles are, like you said, 15 years old. So you would need to go and find a battery, charge the battery, add new oil, add new fuel, biofuel, if you can make biofuel, etc., just to get it working.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, that should be fun.
And it's one of those things where varying states. If you find a vehicle in a garage, it's probably going to be a hell of a lot less work to get that rolling than something that's been out for 15 years, something that was particularly well maintained. Even better chances it might even run still if it's a really durable model of car. But I don't know. They've said it's not a gun porn game, and I'm sure it's also not going to be a vehicle porn game either. It's not supposed to be like a survival game and 1,000 vehicles that you can totally do different things with. It's not like GTA Zombies. That would be an interesting game if Rockstar is paying attention here. Uh, anyway, um, so so first off, let's just kind of talk about the terrain. It's kind of a really open area. There's not like giant cities anywhere. It's kind of almost a little backwoodsy. I haven't seen so far anything that really looks like a major metropolis that existed at some point. Everything that I've seen is that the area is kind of in a almost more rural region or like a countryside kind of area. So what that kind of brings is that you've got a lot of the wildlife and stuff out there, but you also have plenty of terrain to help you out. Just natural rocks and stuff that haven't been cleared away for construction or other purposes. Plenty of trees, potentially even old growth. Have a lot more vegetation you can hide in. They've talked about hiding in bushes, being able to break visual line of sight. Of course, I would also wager if you're in a bush and you're making sound, that's not going to be a very good idea. So, seems like bush would be kind of a situational thing or something where if you've got like a ring of bushes that you can kind of walk in the middle and hide in. And I don't know if we're going to have like advanced gardening techniques, if there's actually going to be the ability to place bushes and trees and stuff in strategic ways or do a hedge maze of sorts. That would be fun, though.
Hmm. That would be
So,
have zombies running around your maze.
yeah. So, you why don't you talk about a little bit your experience and background with survival sims and these kinds of games and how terrain kind of works for you or works against you in a lot of these situations.
Well, I have been obsessed with zombie games forever. Resident Evil 1, which actually Resident Evil lost me because there's, I do not want to do a puzzle for an hour before the next time I find a zombie to kill.
Right.
That pisses me off. Um, I have to say, like the best example I can if they can really get this, like some of these features into it, is State of Decay. State of Decay is very, very based on your environment. There's so much, you make a little bit of noise and you've got a horde coming after you in no time.
Nice.
You got to rescue somebody and the guy just won't shut up, and then you're stuck in a shed with him trying to keep the zombies from coming out. You know, I really want that kind of stuff. You know, I want to be saying to my partner, shh, 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 let's go out the window. What? And then we're screwed.
And that's actually something that I'm wondering how they're going to be able to combat is when someone goes shh and they're trying to be quiet, but the microphone picks up that really harsh kind of hissing, so it
Yeah,
sounds like someone's blowing into the microphone, and instead of being a quiet sound, it comes across as a loud sound. So that's something I'm kind of worried about a little bit. I'm wondering if there's going to be a toggle for whisper that just makes your character talk much more softly and just reduces your audio output.
that would be awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like it really should be like a range according to decibel. So the lower your decibel, the less range it travels, of course.
Yeah.
So if you're in the middle of a giant warehouse and you're whispering, the zombies outside shouldn't hear you.
Right.
I don't want zombies walking through walls. To not mention what game that is. Uh, that pissed me off so much. Like, how did a zombie get in here?
Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
that's something I actually talked about on the first episode is perimeters. The idea that you could seal off an area, have a one maybe like a 1 acre area that you've got all the sides covered, that you've totally cleared all creatures and all life from inside that 1 acre space, and yet somehow things spawn there. Like the idea of containment is lost on some of these games for sure.
that's another thing I loved about State of Decay. Like you can set up like safe zones. You can basically like if you build a perimeter around your base, and then you go to someone else's house, you find some survivors, you help them set up a perimeter around their base. And I'm like, I would set it up where I literally had a safe path to get across the entire town if I just followed the right houses. It should be.
Nice.
I mean, if you have a bunch of claymores sitting outside, your perimeter, 50 feet out, most zombies aren't going to make it. Barbed wire stuff. I actually saw that in a video recently for H1Z1 when they were testing out the barbed wire. I
Yeah.
didn't.
Oh.
You see that? I didn't like that. Like they ran right through it. There was no hang up. There was no pause. They got damaged. A big deal. They still ran right through it.
Yeah,
I'm not going to go see Joe with a zombie.
I've seen two versions of barbed wire in H1Z1. There is that version, and then the other version is the hilarious ragdoll tumbling, getting twisted up in it. So I think they're trying to find
Yeah.
maybe something between the two of those. So it's not just like lay out barbed wire and put on the Benny Hill music, but at the same time, it's something that actually works as a deterrent and not just a source of damage that they walk through.
Yeah, yeah. I did see on Facebook earlier. They did say that defenses. I don't know if they were talking about barbed wire would actually be upgradable later after you placed them.
That makes
So that'd be
sense.
kind of yeah,
Because, if you start with a wooden fence, okay, that's great. You can kind of use that as the infrastructure to lay down cement or help reinforce it, put some corrugated metal, just kind of bolt it on there. Maybe use a couple extra posts to help reinforce it here and there. Chain link fence, that's already pretty useful. You can actually put, sharp, jaggedy things. You can put razor wire all around it and stuff. There's a lot of different ways that an established fence can definitely be upgraded and made more defensible. And just about anything could be made into, a fence or a wall, or maybe it isn't necessarily a fence, but you have a series of barricades that's really easy to defend, like
just
cable.
sharpened sticks.
Well, like if you've got an area where you've got a bunch of cable spools for whatever reason,
Mm,
it's maybe there's a company that was producing them there, maybe there was a lot of them because it's a high tech area that was in development. Maybe there's even some copper on some of them still that you can even work with. But regardless, the idea is that if that's what you've got to work with as your kind of primary barricade, you would be able to set them up in such a way that the zombies have a hard time getting through and around them. Meanwhile, you wouldn't even have to waste precious ammo or anything. You just be able to set up bear traps in between them and play it like a tower defense game at that point, basically.
I would love bear traps.
bear traps and various other, spring
Find
loaded.
zombies trapped
Cause
outside your house.
just take a shock absorber and have it adjusted in such a way that something steps on it and then that car spring gets launched through it. Basically, those
Yes.
car springs are fucking powerful. So
Yeah.
I would love to see those as a type, especially all those rusty cars out there. Those shock absorbers, those springs might still be good. So there's definitely, even in these shoddy, scrappy things, there might still be some parts that are worthwhile. It'd be interesting to see how all that works.
I did also see that it was gonna be more Rust style, the way you build stuff. Like complete pieces. Like you have 15 sheets of metal. You build a metal base,
Yeah.
which I'm a long time Rust player now. And I've never been successfully rated, even by hackers. And as I would say, in any game where you can build a base, if you build a better base, they can't get in. They can't. Mazes, fake doors, double walls, whatever you have to do. You know,
Moats.
moats exactly. That would be awesome having a moat.
That's probably something that will be possible in the game. There is so much water everywhere, even though we're not necessarily going to be able to manipulate the terrain in the same way that we can do in Landmark. The idea that we'd be able to deploy something that indents the space and fills it with water, and then being able to add those in a series along an area, that's definitely, it seems reasonable.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, myself, I would probably the first thing I would probably do is just find like a grocery store and build something in the like just put up defenses, put up wood on the windows and stuff, and just have a grocery store. You can't run out of food then, and I don't know, build out back behind it a tower, and eventually just move into that. I love to have that ability just to take anything, a church, whatever, and then turn that into your fortress.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really reinforced structures. Actually, police stations
Ooh,
are, not only are they going to have a lot of armament, but they're pretty well defended, pretty well reinforced structures.
bulletproof
Um,
glass. Yeah.
as we've seen in, various zombie things, prisons, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
survival things in general. Prisons end up being pretty reinforced and defensible. Um, an island in a lake. Oh my goodness, yeah. I don't know if they would even have something like that, but there would be some straight up pirates going after that stuff, like everybody battling for it. That would be
Yeah.
awesome.
Boats. Ship your zombies out.
Yeah. I wonder if they're gonna have anything, because there is a lot of water, but right now we don't really have much interaction with it, and I don't
I mean,
really know how dangerous the water
uh,
is. Like, is this?
if they're Romano style zombies, they should just be able to walk underneath the water and get wherever they want.
You would think so, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there will be some types of zombies that do lurk in the water, and I don't know. Maybe they're
Which
really
is
fast. There's a lot of potential there that they haven't really hasn't even been approached yet, and that could be, content that's, 3 6 months out before it's even addressed. Zombie sharks, zombie sharknado.
it's worst movie ever.
Actually, primates are the thing that I'm wondering about in general. If, like, monkeys and gorillas and stuff from zoos, like, there would be a very rare sort of thing, but like an 800-pound gorilla zombie is
Oh,
that is going to smash through it. That's like Kool-Aid Man status, because it doesn't feel pain, it doesn't care, it just smells flesh and wants it. So it's gonna rip through and destroy things. Like, there was a cage at the college I went to. They had the exotic animals and training and management program, which was referred to as the EAT'em program, which I think is really funny. But they had I think it was a mandrill in a cage that was just the most beautiful thing. But they tell you, no, don't look it in the eye, don't flash your teeth at it, and don't wiggle your eyebrows at it. So somebody decided, oh, well, I'm gonna do that anyway, and it started fucking freaking out and bending the bars. So that's one of those creatures where the cage is more of a suggestion than a real container.
It's keeping you out.
Yeah, yeah. So, or like the tiger that jumped over the wall at the kids that were throwing rocks at it and took them out.
Yeah.
That's once again, those things. A tiger can take someone off an elephant. So that's a lot of strength. So I just don't even know what smaller monkeys and stuff just being really really fast. That would be your face huggers basically. It's like
I
little
want,
zoo chimpanzees.
I want to train an ape as a guard ape. Somebody was saying on one of the streams that they want to train dogs. They want to find wolves and treat them nice and train them to be guard dogs. But I would rather have a guard ape.
Guard ape.
Yeah, guard ape.
Nice.
That would
Yeah.
freak out the other players.
Well, I mean, if there's a pretty much guarantee of a steady food supply and wolves can actually survive off of zombie meat, then yeah, the idea of having a settlement and having like kind of not necessarily best buddy wolves that you've trained up, but having kind of I guess like a loose kind of alliance with them that we're not gonna go outside at night out of the perimeter. You wolves can have your meals, but when the sun comes up, if you come into town, we are gonna shoot you.
Yeah, they will. I mean, they're using storybricks, so the even on the animals. So the wolves and other animals that should attack the zombies, and vice versa. If a zombie goes, pig, I'm going to eat pig tonight. You know, so that could be a way to distract them. You have animals surrounding your base in your maze.
uh, Calm. Mosquitoes is a good point, but I think The Walking Dead, if I'm not mistaken, the way it works is that they're all infected, and it's just when you actually die that it can finally manifest itself and take over. So if it's going to be something like that in this, which they're all big Walking Dead fans, so there's a decent chance that is how it's going to be. Mosquitoes would, be like one of many other things helping spread the infection everywhere, but it doesn't instantly turn anybody. Nobody instantly becomes a zombie. But that does make me think of something is, if that's the how the initial zombies came about, maybe there's a newer version of it where somebody can be infected and slowly turn into a really powerful kind of zombie over time and eventually kind of lose control of themselves. That would be really interesting, and I don't know the kind of mechanic that they would really want to have to allow that, because it seems like it'd be like a basically like a slow death in a permadeath game is really kind of a nasty consequence.
Well, my understanding why is it works after death is basically it reanimates the brain. It brings back the brain, but in its most primitive function. Just survive, eat, fight, eat. Kill, eat.
I get you. So it makes it more like animalistic and primal at that point. Hmm.
You can't have too much higher thinking when you're dead.
No, that's true. But it's a very crappy predator, because a logical and thinking predator, they're not going to attack something they know that they're going to get hurt from. They're going to only pick off the weak ones and stuff and try to not get injured. But it's kind of like taking a very primal human and then I guess filling them with PCP or something. Because they're still, that's the other thing, is that the zombies are, even in their kind of decrepit, decayed state, they're supposed to be at least, if not more powerful than a human, right?
I don't
because
understand
it's
why.
well,
I mean, it should be whatever they were. I mean, if they were a bodybuilder before, Arnold Schwarzenegger, they're going to be stronger than you. But I don't see why it would be like superhuman. They're not. They're not supernatural. They're virus made.
right, right. But it's one of those things I think of like maybe some of them don't. It isn't that they necessarily get stronger, but some of the muscles decay in a certain way that some actions they're able to do with more power, more force than they previously were. Um, like I'm not a kinesiologist, so I can't really speak in too much detail. But like a bicyclist, for example, can move their legs really powerful in some ways, but they have really limited motion and flexibility and strength in other ways. So the idea of that sort of thing, that they're powerful in the way that they've kind of developed and evolved from what the virus did to them, but they aren't necessarily any stronger than if a living human had the same circumstances happen. Just true.
Stalker said something here good.
Yeah,
Pure rage. It's
exactly.
true.
That's true.
It's true. I mean, if you ever seen a guy just bug out, they get stronger somehow. They just do.
That's true. That's true. I mean, that could. I guess that could be another thing is that the zombies could basically be like in permanent adrenaline overdrive,
That'd be crazy.
or it builds up when they're not active. When they start chasing something, it releases. Because that could be another thing is zombies could even have a stamina meter of their own that kind of wears down. We don't really know because we're not going to see that, but that could definitely be built into their design.
Yeah, that would be good. And then eventually you can actually outrun them
Yeah.
if if your stamina can last long enough.
Yeah. And I don't know how encumbrance is going to work either, because the idea that you're carrying around a bunch of logs and you can build a shack with them, like that
Yeah,
that seems like a lot of material to just kind of be carrying around in a little backpack.
I just chopped down 15 trees. I'm carrying it all in my backpack.
Magic. So
Uh, that one of the greatest things I think about this game is that zombies won't be the only threat. Like you were saying before, zombies aren't the most intelligent predator, but I mean you'll have other players like in
yeah,
Rust. They just see you with full Kevlar and like I want to kill that guy. He's got good shit. And you just really want to go get that guy. And if you have a team, you have a settlement or a raiding party or whatever you want to call you guys. You're going to try to find the people with the best stuff. So you can then have the best stuff.
I could see that. I could definitely see it being very much a gank fest to try to have the best stuff, and then a kill on sight fest when you have it to try to keep it. Yeah. And there's going to be some amount of people trying to do that. It's going to be hard when there's actually a lot of player settlements out there to be able to just run up in them and be a ganker. Sure, you might be able to get in there. You might even be able to wound or even kill someone with your hatchet or some weapon that you found haphazardly in somebody's house. But um, I don't. I think most people are going to keep their best weapons either locked up really safely, or they'll keep them on them. And if somebody really is being belligerent, they're just going to die really quickly. I could be wrong. I don't know how easy it is for someone to get a bottle, gasoline, something. I guess you can light your torch instantly, so you've got something that can light stuff on fire. And the effects of throwing a Molotov cocktail into like a wooden shanty town. Um, they might have guns, but it's going to be hard to put that fire out. And,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
something else. Forest fires. I mean, a lot of people have talked about it, and it is a big deal. If there's no fire service, nature is designed to have fires. It's supposed to have burn cycles and stuff. Especially like out here in California, though. Once again, the area they're representing doesn't really feel like California that much. Like maybe Central California at best, but
it
not
feels more like
really.
middle of the country,
Yeah,
Arkansas.
it really does. It really does. So that's why, um, Yeah, the idea, and I don't know with the burn seasons and stuff. Are there like forest fires that are supposed to come through those areas like every 5 years or
Eventually,
50 or 500 or whatever?
yeah, I
Because
mean, eventually you get enough leaves and pine needles and building up, it creates heat, and sun eventually will set it on fire because it's dry. That'd be
yeah,
awesome. A forest fire and there's zombies just running out of the fire, running out on fire. Still chasing you probably too.
tornadoes, mudslides. Oh man,
Wow. Yeah,
calm.
yeah, yeah. Oh, great zombie tornado.
Zombie cane. Okay, oil cane. Now that's something I had when there was the oil spill in the Gulf. It was a real tragic event, but there was one little piece of humor I could kind of take out of it. The idea that a hurricane would come and grab up that oil and then just like, spread it along and potentially even get lit on fire and have this flaming oil hurricane. And we even thought of like turning into a game called Oil Cane Boyd after the baseball player Oil Can Boyd. Um, so so like the idea that thanks for the follow, enough broken down infrastructure and a hurricane comes through, yeah, it could pull some really nasty stuff through and just deposit it everywhere. Other freak storms like frogs and goldfish and stuff getting picked up and dropped down, that totally happens. I could see
It
that
does.
happening, and it'd be really weird because it's like on one hand, do you want to try it as a food source? On the other hand, like, holy shit, get an umbrella, there's fucking fish everywhere. Like the fucking 10 plagues of Egypt up in there. Man. Okay, that would just be that would be weird and awesome if they had freak storms like that and had not necessarily having them regularly, but like maybe once a month or something. You'll have one weird freak event, and they'll rotate what server has which one and where it happens and stuff. Just be okay, Stalker, that's a good point. The smell would be bad, but that would then help mask the smell of players from zombies because there'd just be rotting flesh everywhere. So you'd
That's true.
basically get, odor stealth at that point, like wearing deodorant. Hey, that's another idea, deodorant. I wonder how that would actually, if you could actually, do something that can help mask your smell, if they're gonna have stuff like that, or if you just douse yourself in a little bit of bleach or something that would help cover up the smell enough that zombies wouldn't go after you, or um,
like
the
like
meteor that hit Russia. Yeah, there you go. Just all sorts of weird shit can happen. Why not?
It'd be like when you go hunting, you put a little zombie piss on you.
Wow.
I don't want to be the guy that collects that.
I hope not. Hmm. So yeah, terrain's good
Sewers
stuff.
flowing.
What was that?
Sewers overflowing.
Oh yeah, sewers overflowing. I mean, just what water can be. Water and weather itself can more or less be a Storybricks AI system of itself, with its basically its own desires and its own goals, and even though they might be very um, not I guess intangible for something that a player would kind of think of. It's the weather's like, okay, I'm gonna move here, I'm gonna do this. We got a high pressure system here and a low pressure system here, and all sorts of funny stuff, and just being able to have kind of semi consistent weather patterns, or at least knowing that the weather, the wind's mostly gonna blow from one direction most of the time. Um, yeah.
He said, "Put meat on people's houses." It's not right, man. It's not right.
I like that.
Don't do that to me, man. I'll be pissed. Why is there so many zombies? I don't know.
Why does that smell like raw venison? There's definitely deers out there. I don't know what it's with wolves eating zombies. If they digest the meat, if they just poop it out, if it's if they pick up anything from it. It seems like either they would be able to get nourishment from it, or it would enter their system. Whatever state it's in would not agree, and it would just come out one end or the other or both. Oh yeah, that's a good point.
uh,
I just thought
I don't
Twitch
know.
was being a jerk.
Yeah,
Or not Twitch. Yeah, Twitch. Twitch chat.
gotta love Twitch chat. Who knows how long we're seeing this? I mean, I'm most excited definitely about vehicles. I mean, they talk about the whole country eventually they want to make the map, right? That's what
Yeah.
they had said. So, I mean, so I should be able to find army bases with rundown tanks and fix them up.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as I don't run across some superhero with a crossbow, I should be the top dog.
A superhero with a. That's pretty specific.
We know who we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be really. Oh no, I got you right there. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see just how all that stuff plays out. So structures was the second thing I wanted to talk about here. So there's existing infrastructure. Some of it's kind of beaten up. Some of it's still in a functional enough state that you can use some of this stuff, or it seems like you'd be able to if there was electricity running. Um, but there's more to it than that. I'm really looking more at the idea of the just structures and buildings and what people can build and how long it takes to build stuff. That's kind of what I want to focus on here for a moment. So first of all, what do you think about like build times in general? How do you think things should take a while to build, make sound while you pound in all the nails and all that stuff, or should it be very like quick and instantaneous?
I hate Instagraphing. On the Rust server that I run, I people all the time. Why is there no Instacrafting? I'm like, that's not really fair. I mean, you come in, you collect 5 pieces of wood. Now you have somewhere to protect yourself in 3 seconds. It's not immersion. There's no immersion there. In real life, you have to watch your ass while you're building that base. So in real life, I would want a guy watching my ass while I'm building the base. Actually, I would want someone else there with me.
Hmm.
And I definitely, I kind of like that idea what you said with the sound. I never thought of that. But yeah, if you're building a metal house, you're banging on metal, sheet metal. Sheet metal is loud.
Yes,
It's
it is.
very, you can hear it far. So yeah, you should be attracted. I mean, you should, if you don't have barbed wire up already, then you should be in a mess of trouble in no time.
Yeah.
You know, that'd be a great idea. I mean, you can't make it too long because then it's actually just like the trees I saw when they cut down the trees. It's like just a few swipes, which is not realistic, but also if it took a half an hour like it really does to chop down a tree, you'd be dead every time. You know.
Yeah, it's one of those things. On one hand, they could make it where it's really quick and it's a solo sort of thing, so a new player can come in, chop a tree down, and do something with it. And when a tree's been felled, I think the player should actually then have to chop it into smaller logs from there, rather than instantly having I've chopped down a tree, I've got 20 logs. Um, and that amount of time spent actually breaking it down, or maybe you don't even want to break it down, maybe you chop it down, clean it up, take the branches and stuff off, maybe even treat it with something, and that's going to be one of many logs in a log cabin you're going to be building. But chopping it down should definitely, it should take at least a decent amount of time, like 20 strokes minimum, and then you would have to then rope it with something, maybe some, you actually have rope, maybe you've got some copper cable that you can layer up a few times so it won't snap, and just, pull it down the rest of the way and do it in such a way that you're not going to crush yourself. It's also, of course, going to be really loud either way because trees are loud when they fall, and if you actually have to pull it the rest of the way, you're going to hear a lot of tree branches cracking and that sort of thing. So another thing is if the tree branches, because I don't know, we don't really have the cow line. I don't know how high the herbivores in the area are kind of eating up all of the trees. But if there's enough low branches, a player could potentially just try to hack one of those off and get one or two logs off of it, rather than taking down an entire tree. Because if you're just trying to make a campfire, it seems like taking down an entire tree is like totally overkill. Of course, if you just need a source of light and trees be damned, you just light a tree on fire.
Well, yeah, they said that you could light anything you normally could light on fire. So that will be cool. You just see I don't know, a car that's a piece of crap. You light it on fire.
Yep.
Use it as a little watch point, I guess.
Yeah. And I actually did that. I did place a couple of campfires as not only a retreat point in case I needed to get away, but also to let me know where I had come from so I could continue advancing away from that direction as I tried to find more stuff. Because when you're on a linear road, it's real easy to set yourself a set of campfires just along the right side of the road, so if you're looking at campfires along the left side of the road, you're going the wrong way.
Mm, mm.
And that's one thing too. Like even campfires, they were an instant build sort of thing. You still have to light it with your torch after it's been built, but that even seems like it should take a moment for the character to put the logs down, maybe put a couple of rocks around it or dig out a hole or whatever, before actually being able to place it. And it seems like something you should be able to get disturbed in the middle of. Because if I want to, if I'm starting to set up a camp and I've got all of these things that are pre-built and it's just place, 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 and then do whatever I need to, there's a lot less chance, for a PvP encounter, for example, for someone to sneak up on me while I'm kneeling down working with the wood and just hack me in the head or something.
Yeah,
So that's another
yeah,
thing. Is just
yeah. He makes
sorry, go ahead.
made a good point here. With the fires, he said you could use it as a distraction. I actually kind of hope that they do that. A lot of TV shows, movies, and stuff have shown before that if you set something on fire, it attracts all the zombies because it's loud, it's noisy, it's bright, it moves. It should be a distraction, and that would be a good distraction.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot of, I mean, just distractions in general. I hope if we just throw a rock somewhere, they'll follow not only the visual path of the rock and its trajectory, but also where it hits and the sound. They'll follow that. So if you've got enough of them close enough that they were tracking you, but they can't really smell you or hear you very well, throwing a rock should be enough to get their attention, or throwing like a coin or something against a hard surface should be enough to get their attention and divert them, just enough to try to sneak away. Zombie moths, yeah. Zombie bees actually is what I want, because you get or not zombie bees, actually just regular bees. That honey, you can use that for a lot of different things. Apparently, it's got some amount of antiseptic properties too. You can ferment it, make mead, make whatever alcohol. Bees themselves carry a yeast that's really useful for making um, decent tasting drinking alcohols, like your beers and stuff. That's kind of coming from the yeast that you'll find on bees and wasps apparently. So it's pretty cool. There's and I, that type of diversity, what actually we're going to have in the world, it'll be really important. And every time, if they introduce anything else, it'll completely throw everything out of balance or throw everything in a different kind of balance, because now the food chain is completely different. Now you've got one more insect that things that eat insects can eat. Now you've got one more type of insect that's trying to eat, other sorts of things or process other sorts of things. Maybe it's processing something that's some other sort of creature likes to eat, like bees making honey, and then bears or honey badgers or whatever come along and they eat it. They smash up that stuff. So, but if you're out in the wild and you've got a bear and it's going after honey or whatever, and you really need a lot of meat. Well, hell, now you've got a distraction you didn't have before for the bear, and you could potentially take it out with a large caliber firearm and eat well and make yourself some bear furs and keep yourself warm, all that good stuff. Dung beetles. You spell that's no, that's the wrong spelling of the Beatles. That's the band.
Yeah.
Though I actually like that. That's actually a really funny pun. I like that. Dung beetles.
Yeah, you just gave me a good idea before. Bear zombies.
Yep, yep. Bear zombies
That's,
would be pretty terrorizing.
yeah, up on all up on their two legs. Whew. I'm still going to be most afraid of zombie clowns. I don't like clowns.
Oh man,
You're looking.
I wonder, because there's gonna be some amount of like regionality to it, where as they spread and expand, there's going to be more types of things and different types of things. And this is something we actually talked about on Tuesday. The idea that some places will have cable spools, some places maybe it was an anvil factory, so you've got just a hilarious cartoon level of anvils around to use for stuff. You've got a place that made those the what are they called, the K-rail barriers that you see in the streets and on highways and stuff, and you've just got a bunch of those can be stacked really well to make walls. um, there's definitely a lot of different ways they can introduce something that's like regionally produced in an area, and the distribution of how far it gets from there. Sure, maybe you'll see a few of those K-rail barricades here and there throughout the world, but there's one specific place, or maybe it's a Department of Transportation facility that you've got just tons of them and a couple working forklifts that you can use to deposit them places. Because that's another thing. Things that are too heavy for a player to, for a character to actually reasonably be able to pick up, they shouldn't be able to pick up. A big, 200 or 500 or however many pounds cement rail shouldn't just be something that's like, oh, it's in my backpack. you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
If so, I'd make a lot of barbed wire.
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you've just got enough barbed wire that you can just be running along, barbed wire everywhere, just trail.
Or
It's now. Okay, okay. Light cycles from Tron, but instead it's the slow version with barbed wire.
yeah.
Now, everyone, the way you play this game,
Spooling out.
you can only turn 90 degrees. Otherwise, you're breaking the game. That would be a hilarious game. Squares, no, it's 2 terabyte. I thought I changed that. Oh well. Yeah, yeah, it's a 2 gigabyte Western Digital from like 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 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 no.
You said it before. I don't know. I don't know where I lost it or something. But somebody has said they want a height restriction, unlike Rust. And I kind of love the fact that there's no height limit in Rust. I mean, in my server, I was famous for building like the Tower of Babel. We got I had it so high that when you were on the top of it, you were seeing nothing but ozone and sun. There was no
Nice.
planet left. There was nothing, and you jumped off of it, and it was like a 6 minute fall. Uh,
That's pretty awesome.
some funny people in chat.
Yeah. Square
uh,
X.
and they actually does building a really tall building does serve some purposes, believe it or not. I mean, it does also help the other players say, oh, that guy probably has a lot of crap. But then you can also tell your friends, because there's no going to be teleporting system. You need to run to
Yeah.
find your stuff. So I have the huge tower in the middle of the town. Yeah, that's not they're going to be able to see it from everywhere. And then on top of that, you have sniping. You have it's hard to raid, and then it also is kind of scary. A player goes to raid a tower and he realizes it's 50 stories high. He's going to be like, I don't think I have enough C4 for that.
Yeah.
You
the
know, it was on his way.
they've
It's
said
monolithic.
they don't want shanty towns. They don't want someone building up this like flash game physics simulator type town that's just building up from one small base and then having it expand out like a tree. They don't want something silly like that. So there's probably going to be some amount of limitation. Like maybe you can only build up to a certain height in wood, before you would have to actually have metal reinforced on the bottom, and then you can only build a certain height with metal before you'd actually have to be using bricks or like really
Yeah.
large pieces of metal. So it get to a point where yeah, you could build 20 stories high, but you're going to need to mine out a quarry's worth of stone, and metal and stuff just to have and really kind of deforest the nearby area to have all of the materials and then to be able to layer it properly so you have less of the architectural restrictions as you go up. You only do 3 floors of stone and then you do 3 floors of metal and then you do 3 floors of wood, and that's the absolute limit sort of thing. But I could definitely see just being able to erect a large structure as a waypoint, and I've said this a lot of times with landmark. Back in the day, back in the before we had even modern compasses and maps and stuff in the quality that we have, the way that people would get from point A to point B without getting lost or being able to find their way is large things that were built in the distance, like steeples on a church. That was specifically the purpose. Is it's not just to be all like, oh, blah blah blah, closer to God, blah blah, but it was actually the functional purpose that you could see it from further and you knew where it was relative to your position, so you could find it. And if you were in trouble or you needed somewhere to stay, um, that would be a place to go. So that makes a tall landmark structure very meaningful in a game like this, because you're right, we're not going to have any way to know where somebody spawns in from, or being able to say somebody's in a certain area and everybody's trying to get there, but the lack of landmarks and guide marks and stuff, even having maps, you still have a hard time. And if you're both moving at the same time, you do that thing where you kind of like nautilus around each other, where you never quite meet, but you keep kind of getting closer and closer in iterations. Um,
Yep, know
yeah,
that one. What do you mean you passed that? I just passed that.
yeah. Latency is
Yeah,
funny sometimes too.
yeah. I didn't see you. And I just noticed. Man, I don't know your. I can't pronounce your name. Ogre.
Uh,
Oh, great bearded one.
there you go.
Oh, great bearded one. See, now you said tall buildings are fairly modern. That's so not true. I mean, you got the pyramids. You got Italian buildings were really tall. The Tower of Babel. It was actually a real thing. whether it's the story behind it is real or not. But they people figured out how to build things. Trust me,
Yeah.
especially when you had slaves.
Lighthouses are another thing that have existed for quite a while. The idea that you're building something up that's just permanent infrastructure that you're not really using functionally for anything else, it's not that unreasonable. It's actually existed for quite a long time. So I mean, there's ancient temples, thousands of years old that are many stories tall. That the way that these days we would get that 20-ton capstone or whatever on the top of it, we would drop it on with a helicopter or a crane or something. But the way they did it is they started a ramp a mile away and built it all the way up so they could push the capstone on top, and then cleared all that dirt away so that way it looked like it had this like divine kind of look to it. It's like there's no way you could get a solid piece of stone like that up there without the hand of God, sort of thing. So that was actually a fun one for archaeologists to figure out. They actually found the evidence of the ramp like however far away, and were able to kind of put two and two together. So, pretty cool. And that's the sort of thing that could end up being put into the architecture. Ha! Oh, great bearded one. There you go.
Yep. Yep.
I definitely agree. Like skyscrapers, that's pushing it. I could see, scavenging destroyed skyscrapers and maybe building up any of the floors that still exist, or the steel I-beams and infrastructure of something that was in progress when stuff went down. Definitely being able to potentially build that up and reinforce it. But I don't know if you'd be able to have it, look like a pristine office building by the end.
I would never go into Manhattan during the zombie apocalypse. Dear God. Think it's hard to get out of Midtown now?
Well, I mean, it might be a little easier because you don't have to be, polite to anybody anymore.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Is like it's hard to get through. Like the more of a dick you are, the faster you can go. Because you're just walking through people, knocking carts over, whatever. It's okay. You versus the rest of the world to get to that destination. Yeah, I've known people who have talked about that sort of thing, and the difficulty of getting around in general, and how that just kind of people don't mean to be rude to each other in New York. It's just a surly area. People just
We're too
that
busy. We're just way too busy.
yeah. It's just that's just how. Are you in New York?
Yes,
Oh,
yes, I am.
okay.
Yes, I am a New York City resident, and yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You just it's understood. I was actually joking around with a friend the other day, and people were talking about being sensitive and stuff like that, and like we're in New York, we should be able to walk up and say "fuck you" and understand it's hello. It's,
Well, not fuck
pretty
you
good.
so much as like what the fuck do you want, or what the fuck are you looking at, sort of thing. It's like, oh, well,
Hey, how
nice
you
day
doing?
to you too. I mean, in Japan, it's rude to ask somebody's business, so they introduce each other with, hey, how's the weather? And so my friend's sister had actually moved to Japan for a couple of years. So when I first talked to her on the phone after a little while, the first thing I asked was, hey, how's the weather? And she started talking to me about all the, general business and stuff going on, not the weather at all. So, but anyway, that's kind of a little bit of a funny tangent there. Though that actually does kind of lead into the next subject I wanted to talk about, which is settlements.
Yes.
So there aren't just New York fuck you like saying hello. Yes, indeed, stalker. You heard it here
Yep.
first.
Confirmation.
Yeah. All right. So settlements. Settlements are going to be a big deal. In my playtest, I played for. It felt like an hour. It could have been 20 minutes. I don't know. It was a lot of fun either way. But I ran for a long way. I ran for probably a good 2 kilometers. And in that area, I found maybe three little off the road trailer settlements abandoned. One on the road with a couple stop signs and K rail barricades and even a toilet just sitting out in the road. That was a funny little spot. I found a few spots where it's just like one to four houses just along the road. Not really settlements, just little spots. Oh, internet problems. Oh no. Oh no, everybody's staying behind the curtains. uh, 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 no signal.
Hello?
Hey there. Alright, yeah, your camera died there, I think.
For a second. That was bad.
Alright, well, the camera isn't showing, so it's just gonna have your
Bad.
Skype avatar till it comes back, but that's fine.
Uh, why is there no picture?
I don't know.
Hmm.
Skype's a jerk.
Yeah.
Try the turn on video button at the bottom. Cycle that a couple times. There we
Oh,
go. Looks like
there
it's
we go.
loading again. Pixel vision. There we go.
Yeah, I had to click it twice. I
All
don't know
right.
why.
So there were those kind of settlements. I'd find a few with like one to four houses. They'd all have a couple bottles of water, some cans of beets. I found a few crowbars, which are apparently really potent weapons. Um, didn't find any guns. Didn't find a machete. Didn't find any vehicles. There was one like actual like town settlement I found. It was maybe 20 to 30 houses. I think there might have been a gas station. I don't really remember there being like too much. There were also a couple kind of larger houses that seemed a little more promising, but most of the stuff was pretty empty for the most part. I didn't really find too much stuff other than lots of water and cans of beets. And then some of the more outdoorsy settlements or some of the like the roadside kind of places. I would find logs of wood. I didn't really find those in the housing settlements as much, but it was really sparse along a long distance. I was in the playtest with two other people, and I don't know if there are any devs on with us or if it was just a an isolated thing. But I only saw one other person the entire time, and that was at the very end of the play session. It seems like there is going to be a lot of emphasis on settlements and trying to establish yourself in them and take them over, because houses you can actually snap the barricades on them and basically board yourself up in them if you need to. So the idea that someone can take over existing infrastructure, upgrade and modify it, is definitely something that's pretty cool. But at the same time, settlements always seem to have more zombies around them. Even if it's an area where all the zombies had been killed at some point, they just seem to gravitate towards houses. So, you're going to go towards them, but you're always going to, have the risk of finding zombies and other things. Hey, Poro. The
Or
wolf factor is another thing because I was scavenging in one of those like four house settlements, and I kept hearing like scratching outside and some wolf growling. I couldn't tell how far away it was. I didn't know if it was coming from me, if it was fighting with some zombies outside. But being able to hear it, it immediately puts you in extra alert mode, and it's like you can't spend too long, especially because the interface was really laggy and it's a pre-alpha state. So I didn't want to spend too long with any container, otherwise I might find myself getting killed before I can get out of a menu. Um, yes, yes, zombies. That is correct. The early access should be starting in I think 2 weeks, so
uh,
we'll be able to talk about it a lot more then. Gas generator inside of a house, that would be really cool. Seems like generators of any kind are going to be noise producers, so I've said before and I'll say again, electricity is something you can only have if you've got the infrastructure to defend it. If you don't have the infrastructure to defend it, if you don't have the means to protect yourself from all that noise and the machinery running and the potential for it to get sabotaged and destroyed by players or by creatures or by zombies, um, it's you're just setting up something that's doomed for failure, and you're just gonna make some noise, burn some gasoline, and waste materials for everyone on the server, which is a thing. People can do that.
That reminds me of something. I'm a member of a couple of zombie organizations, Zombie Squad, and Zombie Emergency Response Team, stuff like that. If you guys have ever heard of those, but we talk about this stuff all the time. And one thing that people all the time are like, oh, there won't be any electricity, in the apocalypse. And what you have to think about is there actually is solar panels everywhere.
Hmm.
All the road signs that say detour, construction ahead, those flashing signs have solar panels on them. Construction lights have solar panels. A lot of your cameras are powered by solar panels. There's a lot of solar panels out there. If you so it'd be nice if you can scavenge for those too. That'd be
Yeah.
a way you get around the noise. That's exactly what I was thinking when you the gas generator. You got in your house, and then you got noise inside the house. The walls are vibrating the noise, windows are vibrating the noise. Not only that, wouldn't that be a lot of like carbon monoxide in the house?
Yeah, it would. You got to ventilate
Yes.
that.
Yeah, you got to ventilate the house. Then you got a fan noise. So yeah, that would be pretty extensive to use a gas generator. Not to mention you got to constantly go out and get gas.
Or
But I
manufacture it
definitely
somehow.
for solar panels. If they don't add solar panels, I'm gonna be depressed.
I can agree. Solar
Solar
panels, because
batteries.
there, and I think that could actually be the limitation. Is there could be, it could be like the, say, gun ammo problem. There could be a million guns but no ammo. There could be a million rounds but no guns to fire them with. Likewise, there could be a million solar panels but no batteries to work with. So anything
Mm,
that you're using, the power's got to be going direct to it, and there's no saving it.
yep.
So, but then again, that also opens up, now that you mention it, kinetic stuff like a bike wheel, that you've just got somebody pedaling and using that to produce a minimal amount of electricity. That's not that loud at all. It's very, very quiet. But the difference is you're going to be, working and sweating and stinking. So you've got to make sure that
Mm.
you're an ample odor radius away from anywhere that zombies could aggro.
I'd have my guard gorilla on a giant hamster wheel. The things I could, if they would let us use the story bricks to build it ourselves, like in Landmark, and the things I'd come up with. People are like, what the hell's going on with that guy's house?
I'm having an issue here. I'm gonna have to. I'm just gonna disable the camera for a moment, and then I'll be back.
Okay, I'll keep everybody entertained.
um, looks like that resolved it. Okay, cool.
Ah,
Ah,
I disappeared.
yeah, you're back now. That was the camera issue. It's fine now.
Oh, okay. With the lag, it keeps driving me crazy because I see myself talking like 5 minutes later. Like, what's going on? Yeah, they definitely mentioned biodiesel in the interview with the can't remember his name, one of the head programmers, but he definitely said there would be biodiesel that you can make yourself. So I can picture that.
So, all of this actually makes me think of like a tech level sort of thing. That like tech level one is fire and hammers and basic sort of stuff. Tech level two is firearms and generators and machinery. And that could actually be like a real big thing. Is they could even further enhance that and have some of the progression, some of what you need to build some of the things part of that. So there is maybe like a semi-tiered progression that there's the basic stuff, then there's the stuff you can make with basic tools and stations, and then there's the stuff that requires advanced tools and stations, and likewise there's the things that are related to it. You're not really going to be able to make a very worthwhile bow and arrow, with just a hatchet. You know, you might be able to, but it's not going to work too well. Versus something that you can make with pretty simple tools and techniques and technology, it can actually be pretty functional and pretty deadly. And likewise, it can actually still remain quiet, which kind of fits with like if it's a three-tiered system, like a second tier of technology. And then once you're actually at the point where you can manufacture guns and ammunition and actually have power as a factor, and have electricity going in a big way, have a lot of machinery, even having a lot of vehicles and the infrastructure to create your gasoline and stuff, being able to use more advanced industrial techniques for farming and stuff rather than actually having to dig the fields by hand and irrigate them with gravity and stuff. That would be a really nice progression to have, and it would add a lot to the game and the survival factor, because if you can ultimately build up an entire city as like a server that's the entire size of a city, basically, you've won. If you can take that entire 8 by 8 kilometers and turn it into civilization, it seems like, even if the zombies are still spawning, it should be a lot easier to beat them back at that point. But it seems like they shouldn't at that point. It seems like at that point, you guys win. Like that, it's game over. That server is endgame status. Keep it running, but move
Giant
on.
Kong.
I mean that at that point, it's the psychological battle of player versus player and surviving in the environment.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need to have some kind of tech level progression, especially with the structures. I mean, you can't just go out and build steel wall buildings and concrete, buildings right off the bat. There's no way. I mean, you need to start with wood, progress more and more and more.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be fair. Somebody comes in, they find the cement factory, and then all of a sudden now they have a concrete castle. You know, who says that guy knew how to work the machines and stuff? He has to learn or find blueprints or something. You know.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. Like, there's only some extent that the James Bond MacGyver factor should go. We should actually have to learn and find technical manuals and blueprints and stuff to actually be able to complete some of these things. Because even if I've got a working AR-15, actually reverse engineering the process and having the tools to actually machine and manufacture one and do it to all the tolerances to make sure nothing gets stuck or jammed or broken or has issues where it wears down or something fires back and takes my head off. That takes a level of precision that you can't just do haphazardly. A lot more improvised gun, something that's like a car spring with a ratchet that you just load something in, load a brick in it, car spring launches it, and then you sit there for 5 or 6 seconds with a crank reeling it back in, load in the next brick, fire it again. I could see something like that, and they could even get to a point, not necessarily a level of comedy, but it could get kind of some of the things
Potato.
people can make could be pretty silly. Yeah, potato guns, exactly.
Fire rocks instead, though. That might hurt more. Maybe you find a Home Depot. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, tool stores. That's going to be another thing. The infrastructure I saw, It was very rural. Everything that the people have there that they would do anything with was probably shipped to them from a bigger city, or that they drove to a bigger city to get. So a lot of those places that I saw, you don't really have access to a lot of these things. You aren't going to have, you're going to have whatever kind of chlorine and bleach and stuff hasn't eaten through the bottles or, evaporated on its own, that you might be able to find under people's kitchen sinks and bathroom sinks. But other than that, I don't think you're really going to be able to find a lot of this stuff around, especially markets and stuff. All that stuff would probably be looted immediately. Antiseptics, things you can use for burning and exploding things. There's a lot of purpose for a lot of these chemicals. So I could see a lot of them getting looted and snatched up real quickly, and them being just, very rare to find in the world at this point. But at the same time, the idea that, you wouldn't be able to make acetone or, pretty much distill it beyond moonshine into something that's totally, non-drinkable, but it's gonna work as a nice solvent. That's definitely possible.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it is 15 years later, so you gotta, things gotta be rusted. They gotta be looted already. You know, and definitely, I don't think gun stores have much left, really. If anything, a couple bullets sitting on the ground, somebody forgot.
Maybe some drawer someone forgot to check, or a safe nobody managed to get into, or
fertilizer. Well, that's true. That's yeah,
yeah.
fertilizer bombs.
There's a
And
lot of
you said
stuff.
people's houses are probably the best place to find stuff.
Yeah,
Hidden nooks and crannies. The gun hidden in the Bible. Whatever. Uh, you find that sound down south. You really do.
I could see
um,
that. I could see a lot of stuff like that where there's just weapons hidden inside the walls and stuff. You
yeah,
just run around every now and then, knock it on the wall. Okay, is it hollow? Hit it with the hatchet, and guns and ammo pour out like it's some sort of weapons pinata or something.
they're backing out of the 15-year thing.
What 15-year thing?
And well, they said that originally they had said it was going to be 15 years in the future, but the great bearded one here is saying that the SMED had basically come off that idea.
I don't know. Ask Radar X. He apparently knows more about the lore for the game than anyone else.
That would that'd be interesting if maybe just 5 years in the future. Then there'd be quite a bit more.
But it hasn't. It's definitely not everywhere, and they've talked about air supply drops. So someone somewhere has the infrastructure to go around dropping crates of weapons and supplies all around the world, or all around these zombified areas. Um, that's the part that's like really boggling to me. But I guess I don't know. What time period they would do if they're not going to do the 15 years, because it seems not necessarily that they're locked into it, but it seemed like it was a really good time frame to work with.
I mean,
Like,
from all the videos, the developers running around and stuff, everything kind of look aged that long. I mean, a lot of overgrowth, a lot of things falling apart.
yeah.
Definitely, stained. Windows were all stained and dirty.
Hmm.
It was definitely old. It was definitely some time passed.
Yeah, yeah. That's and that's, I guess that's the thing that could be ambiguous, is they could say how long. It could be any amount of time, because that could be 15 years, that could be 50 years. Different conditions will cause cars to break down quicker. Out there with all the salted roads, the undersides of vehicles corrode like mad.
Yeah,
I had
tires. Yeah,
a
tires should
buddy.
be gone.
Yeah, I can't remember what kind of car it was my buddy had, but apparently it was one that was really prone to corrosion, so he had to keep it basically spotless under there during the winter and such. Otherwise, he'd have to get rid of it within a couple years.
Wow.
Can't remember. It was some cheap crap car, whatever.
Hmm. That would be a long time period. The 1920s, so like a century almost passed.
Hmm. I honestly
Oh, I
don't.
saw modern vehicles, like the modern Jeeps running around everywhere.
Yeah, I don't. I really don't know what
I'm
the
sure the
actual time
time
frame
period
is
is
going
not
to
gonna be
be.
definite. Yeah, I'm sure it's not going to be definite until near the end.
Yeah.
That's something to change a lot.
I mean, it could be something that they're, depending on the time frame of the game, they're waiting till SOE Live to have panels where we're actually going to decide all of this stuff. Because that's definitely a possibility. Oh, from where the virus came from. Okay.
Right, right. Oh,
Because
well, yeah.
I guess that makes sense if that's where it could have come from there. If the zombie apocalypse hit 15 years ago, one zombie isn't an apocalypse.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So,
okay, okay, so it could be something that slowly kind of spread and built up over time, and now it's starting to reach critical mass. So I don't, I really want to know more about what's going on, all in the rest of the world. But that's definitely something they can totally keep from us because you don't have access to the outside world in this kind of situation.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's gotta. It can't be. I don't know. It can't be too soon because then it just be too much stuff. It needs to be difficult to find resources. You need to worry about how you're going to survive, how you're going to eat tomorrow, how you're going to find body armor. Unless you happen to find somebody that turns that has all Kevlar and still on his body.
And you can kill it without destroying that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, headshots. Hopefully.
Yep. Yes. So settlements will be an interesting thing, and just seeing how that's all going to work. Vehicles were the other thing that I wanted to talk about, and we kind of started talking about it here a little bit. So vehicles, the ability to salvage parts and kind of use them to build up semi-functional or not fully functional stuff that's not completely broken down. That seems really great, and the ability to, I'd really love to see if we can actually reinforce vehicles beyond that and actually put, once again, like the corrugated metal on the sides or something else to actually reinforce it, not just against zombies and creatures in the wilderness, but also against firearms, or potentially even being able to build a makeshift roll cage for whatever vehicle. So no matter how bad the driver is, it's not going to be destroyed from being tipped over. Add a battering ram in with that too, and it'll potentially be less damaged in a head-on collision or a rear collision. So
If they let us customize the rides, you're going to see some crazy things out there.
yeah.
Spikes, guns, and flamethrowers. Who knows?
Yes, yes, yes. Guns
You're going to
and
see crazy.
flamethrowers,
You're
rockets.
going to see buses, with armaments everywhere. You're going to see some crazy stuff if they let us really customize the rides, the right way. Yeah, oh man, I'm already picturing a giant zombie scooping machine in the front.
Oh, trains and train tracks and that kind of infrastructure would be really nice to be able to work with. Just having something that can be built that uses a car engine but rides along the train tracks could actually be really awesome. And using that as a like a high speed transportation system from settlement A to settlement B.
I saw train tracks too. On one of the videos I did see train tracks. So yeah, Yeah, I mean, and train tracks, they don't break. I don't know, if you ever seen, when they build new train tracks because they want it to go a slightly different direction or something.
Hmm.
Sometimes they still leave the old ones, at least, or the old connection still partially attached.
Yeah.
And be 50 years old, it's still there. It's fine usually. It's very hard materials they make those out of.
Yeah, yeah, they'd be pretty tough. And in terms of a player collecting them, it doesn't seem like you'd be able to walk away with more than like 10 of them before you'd just be losing stamina with every step. And, it's heavy
Beard one here is
stuff.
going to steal all our railing system.
Whoops, wrong button. Sorry there, folks.
Sounds like the Great Beard one's basically just going to ruin every plan we have.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's going to have a hard time doing anything with all the trees being burnt down.
Yeah. And when you piss everybody off, we're not letting you into our community.
But the naming system is something that we don't
Yeah,
even know how that's going to work. Like, you die, you pick a new name, and all that stuff. So, you don't know
oh,
who it is. If there's voice modulation options too, you can keep on changing your voice.
oh wow, that would be oof. Wouldn't be able to trust anybody.
That's kind of the idea. Oh, that's something I'd really actually want to do is be watching somebody doing a live stream when their buddy dies, rush over to the point where I know that they're at with something that looks like a fresh character, try to match with the voice modulation if they have something, and be like, "Hey guys, I'm back," and see how long I can play them before they figure it out.
Oh no.
That could be a lot of
Um,
fun.
and well, he said ogres, but it's also another thing. Vehicles. Are you going to be able to load objects into them? Heavy objects you can't carry. Giant two by fours, and concrete pillars, etc.
I figure you'd have to have vehicles. There's no other way you'd be able to transport some of that stuff.
Yeah,
The K
exactly.
rails we were talking about earlier, those you're not going to be moving those by hand, and certainly not with one person. Those
Yeah,
are
that'd be like a 5-person job.
yeah. Those
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. But of course, then there's also the idea of take two cable spools, attach them together, put a bunch of spikes and blades on the part in the middle where it's attached, the smaller part of the spool. So you've got this giant wheelie spinny thing of death, and you just load it on the back of the truck, park at the top of the hill when you've got a bunch of zombies coming, push it out the back of the truck, and you've got the spinning bladed cable spool of death going down, taking out zombies for you, and then you can just go back through and salvage if there's anything good on them, or go back through and collect the spool and do it again. It'd be a lot of fun, actually.
Fishing for zombies off the side of your bus.
Yeah.
Big nets with spikes. Oh, pants. No pants gang. But
No.
you don't start naked in
There is
H1Z1?
no naked in H1Z1.
Damn.
There's not naked. You can't. It's not. It's not a junk simulator. In fact, H1. What's that one? Is it Rust or DayZ that has the full anatomy? Because someone was complaining on the podcast Zero that it's all the same junk. There's no variation. So he's tired of seeing the same
Yeah.
bits and pieces on every naked character, and I
Yeah.
can understand
Rust.
that.
Rust, it's all the same guy with the same
Yeah.
size penis. And they're never wearing pants. No one wears pants.
Yeah.
You're
The
like, oh my god. I see
okay.
people in full Kevlar wearing no pants. What are you doing?
So Doc Manhattan from the Watchmen, he would walk around naked everywhere. Well, they apparently had a simulator that they're trying to rely on just to handle all of the junk related stuff, and it didn't really work. So they had to manually animate his junk and his butt cheeks for the entire movie. Now, the discussions that went on, and they did have females on the art team about like the size charts and how it should kind of swing and sway and all that. Like that's just it's hilarious that for not anything pornographic, but for true for the theater cinema, they had to do, massive dick simulations, and that's that's just hilarious to me. It's so, that I'm sorry,
I'm
that's
so glad that they don't sway and rust.
kind of a
Nope.
tangent here, but
I don't
you
want to see
know,
the sway.
it's a good thing that we're not going to have the naked characters in H1Z1, so we don't have to worry about that stuff. Thanks, Nightbot.
Yeah.
Can never see the movie the same way again. Yeah, seriously.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, no, that character, that blue dude was fully 3D animated. Every scene you see him in, it's all, they've done work over a green screen actor with the 3D model. In fact, the green screen actor, I believe, was wearing blue lights, which is how you get that glow effect, the
I'm
LEDs.
gonna be looking for the credits next time for Dick Simulator Control. Who was in charge of that?
No, I think they got a more dignified title than that, because that wasn't all they were doing. But
Yeah.
whoever the characters animators were for the main studio, they were the ones that had to deal with it. It was them. It was like 6 or 8 of them, I think. Um, so anyway, back to vehicles. Now that we're
Yes.
done talking about that subject, so they had talked about military stuff and jeeps and tanks and I don't know, APCs and stuff. So I don't really know what kind of stuff we're actually going to have, and that stuff is going to be extremely limited. It's not going to be. I saw someone playing Daisy. They were driving along in a car. All of a sudden, this bus comes going like almost head on right past them. So they both get out of their vehicles to shoot at each other. And that's it seems kind of silly if that's how vehicles end up being in the game. They seem like there's something that you would really want to keep a hold of, and like if you see another vehicle on the road, you're gonna try your very best to stay away from it, not turn it into a demolition derby simulator and see if they get out of the way or not. Of
I
course,
might.
people can play it that way. I can totally understand that,
I like a nice
especially.
game of chicken.
Yeah, I mean, if you can reinforce, or actually, if you if you can drive in reverse in good enough quality, like I don't know what they would do for that, but ramming things in reverse, you have a much lower chance of messing up your vehicle because the engine's in the
Yeah.
front. And if you've actually reinforced it or put heavy things in the trunk to help smash stuff, you could actually potentially use the backing into things as a pretty potent weapon, and it's going to be able to go for a while. And if you really get in trouble, put it in gear and drive forward to get away.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they do include tanks, I mean, they're going to be so overpowered. But I mean, for realism, you should be able to find a tank and fix it up eventually. If you have a high enough tech level. But I mean, unless you have a Daryl on your team, I don't know how you're going to stop a tank in real life. Not much nowadays can stop tanks.
It's one of those things you'd have to rely on the fact that they don't have full military training and can't utilize it to its maximum potential as a player, because I don't think they're going to have the player be able to operate all the radar systems and
Yeah.
all the advanced aiming systems and stuff. So that might be the limitation, is you can use it and you can use the guns on it and drive it places, but you're not going to be able to throw gas and fire down the hatch. Yeah, if you can get the hatch open.
Yeah, they're usually locked.
Yeah. Tanks aren't slow, by the way. They can go pretty fast. They can accelerate pretty
Yeah.
fast from what I've seen. So,
You get good highway speeds at least.
yeah.
Yeah, flying vehicles, that would be interesting if you could get a helicopter. Like, all right, we gotta
Helicopter.
abandon this base is done. We gotta abandon. Let's get everybody in the helicopter.
Get to the
Yeah,
chopper. Yeah,
get to
that
the job.
Cessnas, just hang gliders, um, Find a plane museum like San Diego. Just down the street from SOE is a airplane museum sort of thing. So the idea of snagging a biplane and trying to keep that afloat. But I don't know
I mean,
what they're
gliders
good.
are easy to make. I mean,
Yeah,
you have the right
it,
materials.
I
You know?
would worry if someone actually found like a propeller biplane and tried to take off, it would just fall apart immediately because it wouldn't be maintained.
Yeah.
Or, someone finds it, they try to repurpose the engine for other things and use the material for scrap because, what the fuck you don't need a plane that you can fly for 5 minutes and then crash. You need materials and survival. So, I could see a lot of planes just being scrapped and not even getting a chance to fly. Just aircraft in general. Because there's a lot of good parts. If you got a vehicle that can actually run, you potentially fix up cars, maybe even fix up a tank with some of those parts. Um, Set up, generators or infrastructure or other things. Um, you know,
Make your own tank.
yeah, things that improve your settlement. Maybe you've got some sort of a mine, and you can actually build a motorized like a engine for one of the mine carts, so you don't just have to push it everywhere.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Or a pulley cable system, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of different things where I could see a plane. It could be great to use as a plane, but it could end up being 10 times better to use as a building tool. It could be one of those real tempting items in the world that it's put there, and like the player who finds it has this real moral decision. Do I get in and
Mm.
turn it on and see if I can do something awesome and have fun, and potentially crash, or do I do the responsible thing and scrap it and see what we can build up with it?
And flying isn't easy as you guys think it is.
No,
It's
it's not
hard.
easy. It's
All
really
right.
hard.
I went for my pilot's license. It takes a while. All right. It is not easy. Yeah, especially helicopters. Those things have 1,000 switches.
Yes, yes, they do.
I'm still not sure if I remember them all.
But they're all important.
Don't tell anybody that it's riding my helicopter. That though, exactly what I'm doing always. The blinking red light. Yeah, that's nothing. Yeah. But that actually something you said just brought me back. Not to jump back to settlements again for a second, but
Hmm.
did anybody mention whether you would eventually be able to make like defensive, uh, you know, trebuchets, the turrets, archer towers. I don't know. Like, can you make weapons to be like large defensive weapons too?
I would hope so. Being able to use just excess cooking fat and stuff, and keep that on hold, and if something actually comes after your settlement, and you have you get the fires lit under it, get it nice and hot, and you've got the hot oil, basically the hot vat of
Yeah.
oil. They try coming in that front door, and they're boiled alive.
Yeah, or you dig a little tiny trench around your base and you fill it with oil, and somebody comes nearby, you set it on fire.
Yep.
That would be awesome. But I don't know. I haven't seen anything about being able to edit the terrain. So
Yeah, anything that we'd actually be able to do with terrain is going to be very limited because we're not going to have voxel deformation or anything like that. It's pretty much what could be done in real time in PlanetSide 2 if they could have real time terrain modification in PlanetSide 2. It would be very modular things that are building into because the idea of the terrain is it isn't a solid mass, it's a flat piece of paper. So if you're building a well, for example, you're pretty much just doing this with that piece of paper. It's still it's still there, it's still flat, but it's been indented in this area to support the thing that's been put there. So it's as far as we've come with games, there's still like the a lot of games the terrain is just a shell. Even in Landmark, even with the voxels, if you get through to the other side, it's just hollow. It's just empty, and it only generates
Yeah.
the that piece of paper basically where it needs to.
Yeah.
So, but automated turrets and automated I don't know about automated turrets necessarily. That'd be awesome. But just being able to have helicopter blades that you've got a bicycle set up on, and it just keeps the blade spinning whenever you've got someone sitting there pedaling. Um,
Nice.
that's the sort of thing.
Chopping zombies
Yeah,
away.
I could totally see that being something they put in. And then that of course you'd have the option. You have the motorized version if you want to make the noise, or you've got the bike pedal version if you just want to drain stamina. And then if your stamina starts getting low, you'd have to have someone else switch out and take a break. Otherwise, you might not have the chopping power. You might get stuck on a group of two or three, and then they start to push through.
I hope so because I mean if there's going to be settlements and there's going to be people grouping together, I mean that's then siege warfare should come into play. It's been around forever. Still to this day people have sieges. So you should be able to defend yourself and they should be able to attack heavily as well. You know,
Right, right. Okay.
I mean, how else are you going to take down a concrete wall if somebody eventually figures out to build one?
Slathar, yeah, where were you, buddy?
Where you been?
Yeah, I know he's a busy guy. Uh, yeah. So, was there anything else on terrain structures, vehicle, or settlements in particular that you wanted to talk about? Otherwise, I was going to open this up for QA for a few minutes here.
No, no,
Okay.
no. Questions?
And do you have any particular questions about the event on Tuesday?
Uh, no, no. I do have you got to play a little bit. How did you feel the aiming system, everything worked? The guns. Did
I
you
didn't get a
did it
gun.
feel more realistic, more or just the bullet travels straight?
I didn't find a gun, but during the live stream they
Okay.
actually showed the projection system for the bolts, and they actually showed a slowed down version where it shows the origin point and the vector of the bullet as it travels, and it actually travels in an arc. So it
Oh,
actually it actually does do the go up and then go back down sort of thing rather than firing straight. And that's something that we had talked about is the idea of actually being able to zero your scope so that you
mhm.
can have an accurate shot on a target in the
Yeah.
distance.
You figure out the meters and yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you always have to consider recoil if they can add that to it. That's always a big concern with me with any kind of shooting game. They always make them so realistic in the way they look, the way they sound, but not usually always in the mechanics as
No,
much.
they're definitely recoil is going to be actual recoil. When you fire the weapon, it's not going to be, your hands go up and then reset. Your entire camera is going to be slightly higher, and you're going to actually have to pull it back down. So there's actually gonna, and you're not gonna reload really, really fast. It's not gonna be like superhuman reloading speed where it's just press a button and then you've got the clip already ready. In fact, that's actually something that
Absolutely. Yeah.
we've talked about a little bit during the either it was during or before the Q&A session that I was on during the event. But the idea of magazines and the fact that you can't really, there's no way you can have a magazine that you pop out, pop the next one in, load it in, and put the old one away that quickly. If you're going to have a really quick reload, you're basically going to have to drop the one that's in the gun, which basically dropping on anything but soft ground, it's going to get potentially damaged or destroyed. Those magazines actually aren't that durable, and just a little bit of damage, just the little part where the bullets feed into the gun, if those little parts are damaged, they can potentially cause all of the bullets to feed in improperly, and none of them will fire, and it'll just keep on jamming. and that would be, it'd be terrible if you dropped your magazine, picked it up, said try to start firing again, and it's gonna jam up. And
Uh,
jamming is another thing I'd love to see. I don't know if they're actually gonna do that or not, but
yeah, I
um,
mean the bullets are old or handmade,
mhm,
so you gotta have problems. Definitely,
yeah.
definitely.
So there's
I mean, I forgot. I forgot where I was talking about it once before, but I was calling it the Laura Croft impossibility. You know, running in with two Desert Eagles, one in each hand, and fire them without moving an inch. It's impossible. You couldn't. It's hard to hold that gun with two hands.
firing two with one. Oh, and without ear protection either. Like
Oh yeah,
all that entire
yeah,
game being in cavernous, indoor sections, she would have been deaf like in the first 5 minutes of gameplay.
yeah.
So,
Deaf, broken hands.
they've said there's like three ideas I think they want to have for how ammo is gonna work, and they aren't sure which one. One of them is full magazines and ammo count and all of that. One of them is that it's part of the durability of the weapon. Um, and I can't remember what the other one was. If it was like a simplified, you have this much ammo. But I really would like it if they actually required you to have the magazines and actually load them, because that would actually be another element to team gameplay and combat. You've got one person that's just sitting there taking expended magazines, feeding bullets into them, and handing them back to people. That would make a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
or at night when you're at camp, you got to sit there and reload your magazines. Take time to do that. And the spring in the magazines they actually break quite easily.
Hmm.
After a while of being reloaded, you have to replace the spring in them. So that would be very interesting if the magazine had their own damage they can take, and you have to fix them up.
Yeah, but Jimmy said that there are a lot of gun buffs, a lot of people who are proficient and very very understanding of guns on the H1Z1 team. So it's not, while we might see some compromises like in every first person shooter where the both the first person and the third person models don't seem like someone who actually knows how to operate a firearm in the proper way, but that's partially because they actually have to to represent both hands on the screen and having the character kind of squared up just so that it visually translates properly. It's one of those compromises that it doesn't look right but it feels right, sort of things.
Yes, exactly, bearded one. Exactly. You know,
What do you?
I still haven't played a game where you have to oil your guns,
Yeah, that would be another. I
oil
mean,
and clean them.
because if it's all full of dirt, if you just find a random gun in a house that's been abandoned for 15 years and you try to fire that, that's you're looking for trouble.
It might blow off a finger.
Yeah. Hell, my buddy had he was his a bunch of his father's stuff ended up at an uncle's place somewhere in Northern California. So he went up there to finally recover all this stuff. In one of the cabinets was a 38 revolver that was actually loaded, and it had been like that for like 40 years.
Oh no! Oh no!
Yeah, I mean he was smart about it. I mean he opened everything up and checked everything out before he tried to do anything with any of those. Not going to try to fire him or anything. Um, but yeah, the fact that so we were thinking that he was going. His father had that gun just in case he needed to kick squatters off his old property if he was ever going to go back there. All right. Daisy is a cleaning kit. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
That's cool. I mean, jamming mechanics and all of that sort of stuff. The only game I've only seen like two or three games where your guns can jam, and one of them is the Space Hulk series from Warhammer.
American Army. I
Yeah,
remember you
that's
that
one.
happens sometimes.
And there
That game is
was
so realistic.
one
It's overly
more.
realistic.
It was there was a story my buddy had of throwing he and someone else were having an exchange. He was at the second floor at a window. The person was on the ground floor, so he threw a grenade but didn't pull the pin. Guy sees the grenade. He starts running away, knowing that the pin wasn't pulled. He just runs back up to the window and shoots the guy in the back. So and he goes back and gets the grenade.
He saved a grenade.
Yep. Save a
That's funny.
grenade and get him running.
Yeah,
Yep.
my first experience with that game is running across a grassy, overgrown field and noticing my whole team is on their bellies, and I'm like, "What are you guys doing?" And then I get over a hill and poof, I got like three sniper shots all at once. I was, what? And it's just instant kill. It's you don't
Yeah.
even.
Yeah, I was all about
That's why you're on your stomachs.
the
Oh.
the heavy machine gun in the urban environment. I was just a wrecking machine. I didn't play the game for very long because it was just too easy, and it every time I played it, it's like, man, this propaganda sucks.
Yeah, you got so many players that were just so noobs and they wouldn't work as a team, and it just helped you out so much.
Yeah, bad jams take a special tool to clear.
Yes, the
Yeah.
I forgot what it's called.
Well, I think it's also a different consideration trying to clear a jam in an assault rifle or something, a long, larger weapon versus a a pistol or just a basic handgun. It seems like the jam with a handgun, you can just kind of you pull the thing back and shake it, and the bolt's pretty much going to come out. Or otherwise, I guess maybe you would need something to kind of stick in there and pull it out. But yeah, I could see like an assault rifle or a submachine gun. It's a lot more complex of a system. I could definitely see it being a lot more challenging to clear a really tough jam.
Yeah, I mean, gas-fed guns. How would anybody in that doesn't know anything about gun mechanics know how to fix the gas lines in an AR or something?
Yeah, gunsmiths would make a fortune. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
provided they can survive long enough to do anything meaningful.
One of my first jobs was an airsmith. I made quite a bit because nobody knows how to fix a paintball gun correctly.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I could see that. Because they seem simple, but there are a lot of moving parts to a an airsoft gun, especially
Oh yeah,
the fancy competition ones that exist these days.
that would be a great weapon too. A paintball gun full of little bombs or frozen paintballs.
Frozen paintball is just
Those things they do a
rocks.
lot of damage.
Of
Yeah,
course,
rocks.
there's
Yeah,
the
overpower it. So that it's traveling 500 feet per second.
like clay hunting pellet rounds for the like airsoft weapons that it wouldn't necessarily be lethal. Like it'd take a lot of them to kill a player or a zombie, unless you're at extremely close range and you're getting full velocity out of it. Then it might be just a few shots to kill someone instead of many. But if you're trying to take down small game, that would be perfect,
Yeah.
and it would be way quiet compared to some of the other alternatives, especially if it's just like one of those like $40 basically toy airsoft guns that
Yeah.
spring loaded every one. The spring
Yeah.
load mechanism is probably going to be the loudest part of it.
Marbles. Yeah. Marbles would actually be a good way to knock someone over right
Oh
in the head.
yeah. Yeah, there we go. Marbles. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that actually made me think of something just now with the like structures and your settlements and stuff. Now the zombies are supposed to be pretty strong. I think it's like they hit you just a few times, you're dead, right?
Yeah, three, I think.
So is that strength translate into your structures too? I mean, like Are they gonna be able to punch through, too thin of plywood if it's old and wet? And
I don't know because I don't really know the damage relationship of a player versus like a barricade. And the other thing is damage resistance is something that hasn't been talked about at all, like damage
no,
mitigation. It could be that it's just got highly enhanced damage mitigation to barehanded zombie attacks, but using tools against it is going to do full damage, and maybe firearms do 30% of their normal damage because you're not shooting off a bunch of 2x4s with a firearm. It's not a very productive use of ammunition, and it's not really going to be. If you've got a crowbar, you're probably going to be able to get them off way faster and quieter too.
yeah, yeah,
And I've seen those barricades. I think of the idea of like someone sitting there chopping at it with a hatchet, and I think, well, no, if I had a crowbar, I'd just pop that. Okay, that take maybe if I'm really strong, no more than 15 seconds. Then once I've got
mm,
the entire side kind of pried up, just kind of hook the top and start pulling down and away. And a barricade like that, the way that they're designed, they seem like they'd actually fall really easily, just using the right tools. Someone had actually talked about having the burglar tools kit, and that would make sense to have for the game. It's the axe, crowbar, and other things kind of built. It's an all-in-one tool, so I could see that sort
yeah,
of thing. Um, Oh, and I also saw this really awesome hatchet that's designed with this kind of curve in it that causes it to kind of twist at the point of impact, and it actually splits. Like you've got a 2 foot tall log, you just chop it at the top, and it causes it to split the entire way down. So you can break apart a log really quickly with one of those. I don't know how well it would necessarily work on flesh by comparison, but it could be some sort of specialized tools like that would be really nice to have, either being able to build them or just having them out in the world that you can potentially find and not even be able to construct. That's how special and specialized they are. Trace
I
fire in
have
the
not.
game.
I have not seen any tracers. Then again, I haven't seen laser scopes or scopes either yet.
There's no variation between rounds right now. The only variation is the size of round for the type of gun you're using, and that's really it. I'm sure as the game goes on, they'll expand it. I hope they go the route that I've always wanted to see first-person shooter games do, but none of them really ever have, where you can actually stack the bullets in your gun, load it in a certain way. Every third one's a tracer, for example, or maybe the last two in your magazine are hollow point. So if you really get down there, your last two are serious business. Um, or even better with like a Saga 20K, or a clip-fed shotgun, being able to put different shotgun rounds in there for different purposes, starting off with slugs, working your way up through the ranges, so you've got just the absolute most point blank close range rounds by the end of the magazine. So if you've got a lot of fast things coming at you, you'd be able to pick them off from further away earlier on, and then as you kind of work down your ranges through the different types of shells and I guess whatever type of ammunition you would have loaded into it, you would basically be able to kind of gauge your effectiveness level, and then it gets to a point where, okay, they're too close, I'm out of rounds, close the door, barricade it up, move on to the next retreat point, and do it again. So I could see that sort of thing. Dragon's Breath, is that the phosphorus rounds? Those were Red Faction 2, I think, had the flamethrower shotgun. That was so much fun.
Incendiary rounds. That would be
Yeah,
awesome.
yes, incendiary.
Yeah.
Well, just incendiary devices in general are really easy to make, so I think that would be something
Yeah.
we can probably expect to see a lot of. Everything
Flamethrower
burns.
simple. I think they said the first flamethrower, the earliest flamethrower they found was something like 1,000 years ago. So
Oh yeah, ancient China, I believe, or old China, if not ancient, had the basically the cannons that were like a close range like flamethrower.
yeah, yeah,
So
flames aren't that hard. You just pump out fuel and set it aflame, and
yep,
that's a lot of damage.
yep.
So you just take down a whole horde. Yeah. And I mean, different rounds. Different rounds are important. I mean, you look on the battlefield. Soldiers, going into a area where they know they're going to be facing other soldiers, rarely ever carry hollow points because they don't really get through armor.
Right.
But when they're in a area where they know they're going to be getting a lot of soft targets, insurgents and stuff like that, then they do carry them, or they might carry, they might carry the
Smart
new
rounds.
smarter bullets, the
Yeah.
spinning, the ones that break apart and spin and stuff, and there's a lot of different ammo nowadays.
Yeah. Old
An
cannon
old cannon
mounted.
on a Jeep.
Yeah, for sure, for
Wow,
sure.
that might hurt the Jeep a little bit.
Actually, there was a company like 10, 15 years ago that was manufacturing a machine gun. I think it was a 12 millimeter. Or no, it was a pretty substantial machine gun. Maybe it was a 10 or a 12 that mounted to the underside of SUVs and had a joystick and a camera to aim it.
Nice.
So that's the fact. And I think I don't know, like, there might have been some places in at least in North America where it might have actually been legal to own something like that.
Yeah.
So, that's the idea of like the one in a million random civilian vehicle you get into is, wait, what's this? Oh my god, this is the best vehicle ever.
Yeah, here in West Virginia, God knows what you'll find.
Yeah, that would be.
Personal tanks in people's
Also,
garages.
the amount of improvised weapons and stuff people design when the apocalypse happened before they had gotten killed or otherwise or left the area,
Yeah.
there might already be like some real redneck science weaponry that's just, you just need to give it a little bit of extra modification, or replace the engine that was in it, and you've got yourself something that's really survival worthy. Mm.
Big big van with chainsaws powered by the engine sticking out the
Yeah,
sides.
exactly, exactly.
Red Jacket. Yeah. They've done some crazy stuff on Red Jacket. I want them on my team.
Nice. All right, so it's overtime here, so I think we're gonna wrap up the show. I would, yeah, normally I do giveaways for my stuff, and unfortunately, we don't really have anything to give away with H1Z1. There isn't any early access. There's no insider program, so live streamers don't have anklets or whatever. That'd be hilarious having
Feathers in a jar.
a jump increase item in the game. It would be so broken and piss off so many people. It wouldn't even be worth making the game if they did something like that. But at some point we'll have some sort of goodies and codes we'll be able to give away. So when it gets to that point, I'll definitely start doing giveaways on the show here. Um, Cannon in a truck, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, this has been H1Z1 Dead Feature Rant. I am your host, Legendary Neurotoxin, and joining me here is DamainKnight. Hope you've been enjoying the show here. Definitely tune in next week, the exact same time, 5 p.m. Pacific on Thursday. We'll be back again. Might even have one of the devs. We'll see. We'll see. It'd be a little bit too short of notice to have had them this week because, the Tuesday thing was just so much serious business and took up a lot of time. But if you want to get some H1Z1 in and you haven't seen the 12-hour broadcast, tune in, check it out. There's a lot of information there, a lot of stuff I'm sure I even missed. But until then, I think I will see you folks later. I know I will see you folks later. And that's it.